Hello students, today we're doing lesson 9.4, factoring trinomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so I like to call these kind of factoring puzzles. And if you like puzzles, then you're going to like these kind of factorings. Okay, if you like math, you'll probably like this kind of factoring. If you don't like math or puzzles, just think of it as a puzzle that you have to solve to get a good grade instead of like you have to do math. Okay, let's just jump right in with some examples because that's all you can do with this really is have examples. Okay, so we're going to factor x squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay, so the trick to these is, first of all, you're going to probably have two parentheses. Always, always, always do what I had told you at the last Zoom meeting was to make sure that you can't factor something out of all of this, which I don't have a number or a variable that can factor out of this problem. Okay, but I do already know my first terms, and that's x and x, because I have an x squared here, so it's going to be x times x. Now, what I don't know is my last terms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at 12. The last number, right, because those last two numbers have to multiply to get 12. So I'm going to go through all the ways that you can multiply and make 12, right? 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. And then it goes backwards, 4 times 3, 6 times 2, and 12 times 1. So that's all that make 12. So it has to be one of those combinations, right? 1, 12, 2, 6, or 3, 4. So next I'm going to look at my middle term. And I'm going to say the two of these that added together makes 7. And I only say add it together because we have plus plus. And plus plus is the easiest one because it's plus plus also. So which two of these? Well, 1 plus 12 is 13, so that's not going to work. 2 plus 6 is 8, and 3 plus 4 is 7. So that's the one we're going to use, is a 3 and a 4. Okay, and that's my answer. Okay, this one was a really easy one. But I do want to check it real quick. So when you're checking these, you always do first times first is going to give you the first one here, right? So that one works. And the last times the last is going to give you the last one here. And that one works. 3 times 4 is 12. And then to find the middle one, this is the one we're going to be talking about the most, is finding that middle one and checking it, is you have to do your insides and outsides. So if my inside is 3x and my outside is 4x, that equals 7x. And I have the right answer right here. Or not the answer, because this is the answer. But I have the right check. That's the right term in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I know I've only done one, but I'm going to go ahead and let you try to do example 2 on your own because it's another easy one. Okay, so factor x squared plus 9x plus 8. Okay, so everybody go ahead and hit pause. I'm going to leave that example up there and see if you can factor this one and then come back. Okay, everybody should be back. Hopefully you got this one figured out also. I can't factor anything out of that to begin with, so I'm just going to start my parentheses. X and X is easy. I have plus plus, so that's going to be plus plus. That's the only one you do that with is plus plus. Okay, and then 8. So to get 8, I could do 1 times 8, and I could do 2 times 4, and that's it, right? So I'm trying to get 9 in the middle, so I'm going to use the 1 times 8. Okay, and so there's my answer. Okay, and then I'm going to go back and check especially my middle term. So my first ones are right, x times x. My last one, 1 times 8. And then my middle terms, I have 1x and 8x. So that equals 9x. So I'm right. Okay? Okay, now we're going to do some with different signs besides plus and plus. Okay, so this is when it gets a little bit harder and it gets a little bit more like a puzzle. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do is factor x squared plus x minus 72. Okay, so I don't have anything I can factor out of that before I do my 2 factors, and x is at the front. Okay, 72 has a whole bunch of multiplications. We have 1 times 72, we have 2 times 36, we have 3 times something. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there because you don't have to necessarily write all these out. What I'm looking for is this middle number to be 1, okay? And because the minus sign is in there somewhere, it doesn't matter where, but because there's a minus sign, that means I'm probably going, not probably, if the minus sign is at the end, I will be subtracting these numbers right here. Okay, so up here, remember we add it. 1 plus 8 is 9, right? I should put it like that because 1 times 8 is not 9. Okay, so 1 plus 8 is 9, so I was adding, but now I'm going to be subtracting because of that minus sign right there. Okay, well, I need to subtract to make the number 1. Okay, so think of 2 numbers that when you multiply them, they make 72, and when you subtract them, they make 1. So there's the puzzle. What 2 numbers, when I multiply them, make 72, but when I subtract them, make 1. So I can figure this out by saying 9 times 8 is 72, and 9 minus 8 is 1. So that's the numbers I'm going to put here. Okay, I need to give myself a little bit more room right here. Okay, now the next part is figuring out whether I put a plus or a minus in these. So if you have a plus minus, okay, well, let's write down some of these rules right here. If you have a plus plus, then you're going to have plus plus in your parentheses, right? If you have a plus minus, you're going to have a plus minus here. And the same way with, okay, then, but minus plus, you're going to have a minus minus. And the last one would be minus minus. And that's going to be a plus minus. Okay, I know these are confusing, right? So this is if you're factoring and what goes in parentheses. Okay, but we'll talk a little bit about why those work. So let's talk about, this is the one that we're doing right now, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean the first one has to be plus and the second one has to be minus. Those can be mixed, okay? So what you need to look at is your middle sign. The middle one is a plus here. So when I subtract, I want my bigger number to be the plus. So 9 is going to be my plus and 8 is going to be my minus, okay? And that's my answer. Now let's go back and check those middle terms. Well, check the first ones. X times x is x squared. The last one, 9 times negative 8 is a negative 72. So that one works also. And now I'm going to check the middle ones. That's a 9x. And that's a negative 8x. So you see how when you subtract those, you get 1x and it's positive. Okay, so always check, especially when it's not a plus plus, because you can get things wrong. Okay, let's go on to example 4. Okay, and this one is factor 2x squared plus 22x plus 48. So remember what I told you to do first every time is, can you factor something out of that? So yes, those are all even numbers, so I can factor out a 2. So once I do that, make sure you factor out the 2 for every number. And now once I do that, I'm going to go through and factor just this, right? So I'm going to have my 2 parentheses for that. Make sure that 2 comes down. It needs to stay there. Okay, so now I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make you pause now, and I want you to finish that factoring. So go ahead and pause now. Okay, now that you're back, this is a plus plus, so plus pluses are the easiest, so I have plus plus. And then I need to make 24. I need to be able to make 2 that multiply to be 24, so they multiply to be this one, and they add to be this one. So there's your puzzle, right? We're trying to have a puzzle. So 24 would be 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, right? So now I look at those and I say, which two of those add together to make 11? Okay, so it's not that one. That one's 25. This one's 14. 3 plus 8 is 11, so that one works. And I always check all of them if I have them written up there. 4 plus 6 is 10, so that doesn't work. So 3 and 8. And that's my answer. Okay? Okay, remember, if you have questions over this, you can text me, call me. Well, probably text me first to make sure that I'm not driving or something. Okay, and the last one, we have a squared minus 5a minus 14. Actually, we're going to do one more after this because they did not give you one that I wanted to go over. Okay, so here we have minus minus. And up here, minus minus means we're going to have a plus and a minus, right? And minus minus means I'm still going to minus. If you have a minus at the last, so all these rules kind of confuse kids. So that's why I, a lot of times, just play with the signs to figure out where they go. But here's a good little trick, is the last sign tells you whether you're going to add or subtract in the middle. So I'm going to work on 14, like 1 times 14, 2 times 7, and see which one of those subtracts to get 5. So I'm trying to subtract to get 5. Okay, so this subtraction is 13, and this subtraction is 5. So this is the one I want to use, is 2 times 7. So I have A and 2 and 7, and now my signs. So up here, I have minus minus, that's this one, right? So I'm going to have a plus and a minus. You always have to have a plus and a minus when you're subtracting, right? Because if they're the same, then you add. But if they're different, then you subtract. Okay, so I want my 5 to be the negative, right? So that means I want my biggest number to be the negative. So 7 is your bigger number. You want that one to be the minus, and then 2 to be your plus. And that's my answer. And you could check those middle numbers by saying, okay, that's 2a. And this one is negative 7a or minus 7a. And see how that equals a minus 5a? Okay. Okay, last one that I want us to work on is example 6. And this one is not in your book. But I do want you to see one of these before you start your schoolwork. So x squared minus 13x plus 40. Okay, so see how it has a plus at the end? That means I'm going to add the two numbers. So 40 would be 1 and 40, 2 and 20, let's see, 3, 4 and 10, 5 and 9, okay, 6, 7, not 5 and 9, I'm sorry, that's 5 and 8. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so now I said we're going to add these together to get 13. Well, the only one that makes 13 is this one when added. I'll change that to a plus. So 5 and 8 are going to be my numbers. So when I multiply these, I'm going to have a 5 and an 8. But remember, I said I was adding. And I can't put plus plus because this middle one has to end up being negative. So the trick to when I have a minus and a plus, I'm going to be adding, so my signs have to be the same, so they're both going to be minus. So see how at the end that's going to give you a negative 5 times a negative 8 gives you a positive 40. Okay, but if I added those two, so if I did the middle ones like this and I added those two, I get a negative 13x, which is what's here. So you have to be able to multiply those two to get the last one and add or subtract them to get the middle one. Okay, so that's it for your lessons. And you're going to be factoring just problems like this. All of them will be able to be factored. There won't be any that can't be factored. So don't leave one blank saying, I can't figure this out. Okay, and a lot of the ones that kids can't figure out is sometimes the one time something because they forget about that. Okay, that's it.